Now, look, I could go on all day. And you know what I've heard back? I've talked about this for a long time. You know what I've heard back from the FDIC? Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. I haven't heard from you. Last time I checked, 97 employees at your agency, if you're confirmed, reported repeated incidents of sexual assault, sexual advances, and unwanted touching. 91 other employees reported repeated incidents of sex discrimination. 187 employees reported repeated incidents of bullying and threats. 191 employees reported repeated incidents of racial discrimination. Did you read the part of the report, Mr. Hill, where an Hispanic employee said that his supervisor asked him to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to, quote, prove that he was an American? Did you read that?
I did, Senator.
Did it make you proud?
It did not.
You've been there since January, right?
That's correct.
I heard you talk about transparency and accountability. Those are pretty words. I want a report within 30 days about what's been done. I want to know who's been fired. I want to know who's been prosecuted. I want to know who's been moved around with so-called demotion, taking care of their brother-in-law, and got a bonus.
We can certainly provide that for you.
Well, you better, because I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure I'm going to vote for you.
This may look like a heated confirmation hearing, but it's actually a test of whether federal oversight still has teeth. What's really being tested here is whether agency leadership is accountable to Congress when internal safeguards break down. This raises broader questions about how power operates inside federal institutions when reports pile up and consequences don't follow. In this video, we'll break down how one Senate exchange exposes the limits and responsibilities of congressional oversight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Paul Hollis, I've known him for a long time. He is a favorite son in Louisiana. He served honorably and admirably in our state legislature. He was on the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. No more important job in my state. There's nobody in this country that knows more about coins and coinage and numismatics than Paul Hollis, and all of us in Louisiana are so proud of him. Mr. Hill, did you read the 234-page Cleary-Gottlieb report about the sexual harassment and the bullying and the touching and the sleaze and the racial discrimination at the FDIC under President Biden?
I did, Senator.
I'm going to clean up the language here because we've got kids here. Did you read the part of the report where one young female employee said that her supervisor looked her in the eye and described her as being, quote, like a grizzly bear with breasts, but he didn't use the term breast. Did you read that?
I did, yes.
Did you read the part where one FDIC supervisor asked a female, young female subordinate, quote, does your husband blank you?
I did, Senator.
You read that?
Yes.
Did you read the part of the report where one young female employee said her supervisor sent her a text saying, quote, get naked, blank?
Yes, Senator.
Did you read the part of the report where one female employee said that her supervisor at the FDIC, been there for years, sent her a picture of his private parts?
Yes, Senator.
Now, look, I could go on all day. And you know what I've heard back? I've talked about this for a long time. You know what I've heard back from the FDIC? Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. I haven't heard from you. Last time I checked, 97 employees at your agency, if you're confirmed, reported repeated incidents of sexual assault, sexual advances, and unwanted touching. 91 other employees reported repeated incidents of sex discrimination. 187 employees reported repeated incidents of bullying and threats. 191 employees reported repeated incidents of racial discrimination. Did you read the part of the report, Mr. Hill, where an Hispanic employee said that his supervisor asked him to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to, quote, prove that he was an American? Did you read that?
I did, Senator.
Did it make you proud?
It did not.
You've been there since January, right?
That's correct.
I heard you talk about transparency and accountability. Those are pretty words. I want a report within 30 days about what's been done. I want to know who's been fired. I want to know who's been prosecuted. I want to know who's been moved around with so-called demotion, taking care of their brother-in-law, and got a bonus.
We can certainly provide that for you.
Well, you better, because I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure I'm going to vote for you. I've had enough of this. I have had enough of this. And if your name came up in front of me right now, I wouldn't vote for you.
Senator,
It's got nothing to do with your policy chops, but I have had enough.
Yep.
I have had enough. This is not an isolated incident. And I've talked about this repeatedly, and I've heard nothing from you, Mr. Hill, and I've had nothing from your agency. And you know what I assume? Look, I trust everybody. I believe in the adage, trust in God, but tie up your camel.
Senator, we are fully committed to cleaning up the agency.
Yeah, well, you got 30 days,
Yep.
or whatever I just said. I'll stick to whatever I just said to give me a report about what's happened to these people.
We will do so.
And otherwise, you can forget about my vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What we just witnessed in that exchange was not a routine confirmation hearing moment. It was a line being drawn. When Senator John Kennedy looked directly at an FDIC nominee and said, without hesitation, "If your name came up in front of me right now, I wouldn't vote for you." It wasn't about partisanship. It wasn't about ideology. It wasn't even about policy. It was about responsibility. And more importantly, it was about accountability that has gone missing inside powerful federal institutions. The senator didn't speculate. He didn't exaggerate. He read directly from a 234-page internal report that documented a culture inside a federal agency that many Americans assume operates quietly, professionally, and above reproach. Instead, what was described was a pattern of conduct that no workplace should tolerate, let alone one entrusted with safeguarding public trust in the financial system. Kennedy's questions were deliberate. He asked whether the nominee had read the report. He asked whether he remembered specific incidents described by employees. He asked whether those words, those actions, those moments made him proud to represent the institution. And each time, the answers came back short. Yes, he read it. No, it did not make him proud. But that wasn't enough, because this hearing wasn't about awareness, it was about action, or the lack of it. For years, according to the report, employees documented repeated misconduct, intimidation, and discriminatory treatment. Not isolated mistakes, not misunderstandings, repeated patterns. And yet, as Kennedy pointed out, what response followed? Silence. No visible consequences, no clear accountability, no reassurance to those inside the agency that the system would protect them rather than shield those in power. That silence is what finally broke through the formality of the hearing room. When Kennedy said, "I've had enough," he wasn't speaking only for himself. He was speaking for a public that has grown weary of hearing the same promises from Washington, promises of transparency, promises of reform, promises that somehow never reach the people affected. The nominee spoke of accountability, of commitment, of cleaning things up, but Kennedy cut through those words with a demand that carried weight. A report within 30 days. Names, outcomes, consequences, not slogans, not assurances, evidence. Because in government, words are easy. Paper statements are easy. Real accountability is not. This moment matters because it exposes something deeper than one agency or one nomination. It reveals a broader problem inside the American system of governance. Too often, misconduct is acknowledged only after it becomes impossible to ignore. Too often, leadership responds with process instead of consequences. And too often, the people harmed by institutional failure are left waiting while careers quietly continue unaffected. What Kennedy did in that moment was disrupt that cycle. By tying his vote directly to documented action, he reminded everyone in that room that Senate confirmation is not a formality. It is leverage. And when used properly, it can force institutions to confront uncomfortable truths they would rather move past. This wasn't a speech for the cameras, it was a warning, a signal that patience has limits. And it raises an uncomfortable question for every federal agency watching. How many reports sit unread, unresolved, and unanswered until a senator finally reads them aloud in public? Because the credibility of government does not rest on press releases. It rests on whether leaders are willing to confront failure inside their own walls. When an agency tasked with enforcing rules cannot enforce standards within itself, public confidence erodes. When misconduct is documented but consequences are unclear, trust collapses. And when leadership asks for confirmation without proving reform, the system breaks down. That is why this exchange resonates beyond this hearing room. It shows what oversight is supposed to look like when it is taken seriously. It shows that confirmation hearings are not about politeness. They are about power, and whether it will be used to protect institutions or protect people. The nominee now has 30 days. 30 days to show that the words spoken today were not empty. 30 days to demonstrate that accountability is more than a talking point. 30 days to prove that leadership means taking responsibility for what happens on your watch. Because as Senator Kennedy made clear, there are moments when enough truly is enough. And moments like this remind us why oversight exists in the first place. If you believe accountability should not depend on public outrage, but on principle, if you believe government institutions should be held to the same standards they demand of others, and if you believe sunlight still matters in Washington, support our work to expose the truth. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.